A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. We begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. My dear respected audience, this is Paragon Foundation coming your way with another interesting edition on our discussions, lectures on Iraada. Inshallah, in today's episode, we want to carefully have a look at certain things that affect the production of Iraada. The activities, more especially the major pillars of Iraada. We would have a look at that one, and the activities that we need to throughout in this Ramadan consistently keep on embarking on those activities so that we can nurture Iraada. In terms of nurturing of Iraada, sometimes we are not even aware of some of the effect of the activities we do on how they nurture the Iraada. And if they do, how to actually nourish that Iraada, stock it, and then use that energy in other fields of our lives. We lack some of these things. And as we proceed with our discussions from one episode to another episode, we shall come to talk about that. But inshallah, by the end of this particular lecture, my main aim is to get myself reminded and you also reminded the major activity, which is fasting, how we are supposed to do it so that it will nurture the Iraada for us. Alongside the fasting, other complementary and other supporting activities that we need to embark on so that inshallah it will strengthen and increase the effectiveness of the fasting in terms of production of what? Iraada. Iraada itself, the core or inside it, the major thing we are supposed to get out of the Iraada is self-restraint. Within the Iraada, which is the willpower, we have several other concepts. But the first step of that concept, or the first step of what we need to feel to see that we are getting the Iraada, is actually the self-restraint, what we may call self-inhibition. Beyond the self-inhibition, Iraada extends to we being able to get ourselves to move and do something. We command ourselves to do something. That will be self-control. Self-control extends beyond only commanding ourselves to do something alone. The extent to which we are to do that thing, what is actually the aim of doing that thing, and whether we have gotten it or not, how do we regulate the dosage of our activities, and how do we ensure that we get the results that we need. Self-regulation takes into it all these aspects. But then, especially the first step of Iraada, which is self-restraint, is a major thing that fasting helps us to be able to develop, which is the first step. Now, in our past episode, we mentioned the centers from which Iraada is produced. Number one, we talked about the heart. In fact, the heart is seen as the major factory for the production of what? Iraada, because that is where desires are nurtured and then derives actually gain strength over there to move for us to have that energy to be able to move forward and do something. So the heart is the factory. Then we also have the soul that actually regulates our inclinations, either to use the energy to do a wrong thing or use the energy to do the right thing, or either to pursue a shortcut, a shorter way of responding to the derives, responding to the instinct, or responding to what we want within us, or to use a normal way that will not give us a side effect later on, or that will not give us consequences in our lives later on. It is the soul that actually regulates all these things. Then also another center we talked about is the mind. The mind actually throws light on all the fields in front of us for us to see, read, and understand very well what are the major intakes and what are the output, the consequences of them, the benefit, and then also the harm that we are going to get. The mind will help us. Aside the mind also being a center, another one is the body. The body houses all these things, irrespective of the good sources of derive and power the heart may produce. And then the soul actually encouraging us to move in a positive inclination form. And then also our mind also giving us more knowledge for us to understand if the energy level of the body physiologically is very low, we might either be sick or there may be anything at all within our body system that if we are not so healthy, irrespective of all these centers positively contributing, it becomes difficult for us to actually, produce Iraada. Then we finally also talked about the environment. The environment also affects us, where you find yourself will contribute positively or negatively to the production of what? Iraada. When all these things are even okay and working very well, we still see some differences in the levels of what willpower that we produce. In our last episode, we mentioned about the existence of the filters in between these production centers or in between these major centers. Either a filter that is covering our mind, or a filter that is covering our heart, or a filter that is covering our soul. All these things, they go a long way to alternate or to change the level of Iraada or the direction or the quality of Iraada. That was our last episode. Today in this episode, we want to see the major pillars. All these factories or centers that we have mentioned, what should they produce so that we will be able to say we are producing a willpower? And practically getting to the end, we also mentioned the activities, number of activities before we move, number of activities that we can embark on in this Ramadan to ensure that as we move from one day to another day, we are contributing to the production and the strengthening of our Iraada. So the major pillars in the production of Iraada is number one, our state. Our state major being controlled by our body, but all the other centers will also feed into the production or the feeling of our state. To reduce it to a normal level for us to understand mood, our mood, and to further reduce it, maybe giving examples. I mean, sometimes our state of excitement, our happiness, our sadness, our worry, and then loneliness, we being alone, and then boredom. So many of these states, some of them are positive, some of them are negative. The negative ones, sometimes we devise so many ways of trying to handle them. And some of those ways can plunge us into some bad habits, and they can further kill and completely eliminate our Iraada. Meanwhile, Alhamdulillah, Islam and the Quran had already made it known to us that لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي قَبَدٍ, that indeed mankind was created into difficulties. So difficulties will come and it will alternate and shake your state and change your mood into a negative one. Allah Azza wa Jal gives you a way of what? Resetting your mood into a positive one. First of all, Allah assures you that inna ma'al usri yusra, that anytime you move into this difficulty, which is part of our life, He assures you that together with the difficulty, there is easiness, there is a solution. Wait, endure, and pray hard, work hard, look at the legal halal way of doing away with those particular difficulties, and inshallah, Allah promises you that there is a solution. So in our struggle to get the solution to do away with a negative mood, we tend to quickly look at the shortcuts to the production of the solution. And most of these shortcuts, look, you are bored. Immediately then you take the phone. Then you are just flipping through, changing from one side to another side. That is not also enough for you. You move on to pornography. It's not enough for you. You move on. You just want to actually deal with what? The boredom. You want to deal with the stress. You want to deal with the sadness. Meanwhile, Allah has given you the first assurance that there is what? A solution. There is ease. There's another route to what? the happiness. And Allah gives you a further solution, asks you that Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Is it not with the zikr, remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal, that we can stabilize? Because negative moods and negative states, or irrespective of the type of the state, it could be happiness or worry or any way, once there's a flip in mood, then you find the heart will what? Shake. The heart will shake. And when the heart shake and there's a change in mood, either with food or plenty talking with friends or going onto the internet or dancing or singing or music, anywhere at all, we want to stabilize the heart. And Allah is telling you, no, the best way, that you don't need any prize, you don't need any money at all, you don't need any influence and power to go and buy it, is what? Dhikrullah. Ala bi dhikrullahi tatma'innul qulub. Is it not with the remembrance of Allah that you get the heart to get stabilized? Imagine that Allah Azza wa Jal had tied the way of stabilizing our mood and the way of actually regaining stability and internal tranquility to the heart to any other substance and made it the only way. Then the poor, how would they have been able to stabilize their heart? It's out of the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal that He has given a zikrullah. Fine, today you can go and buy tramol, you can go and buy cocaine, you can go and buy alcohol. It is because you have money. That is why you are going. What of those who don't have money? How should they stabilize their heart and stabilize their state? So, my dear brother and sister who is listening to me, the state itself as a product of stability within the heart and the soul and the mind is something that is a core pillar of Iraada, willpower. In fact, we shall come to take the state in entirety as a topic to see how we are actually going to manage our state and ensure that we are always in productive and enhancing mood. State is number one pillar of our Iraada, our willpower, that can get us to positively do something. Then, or negatively also what? Do something. Number two thing is actually activities. Activities. In fact, willpower should is initiated with activities or killed with what? Activities, or managed with what? Activities. For us to actually say a willpower exists, we need an activity. For us to nurture the willpower itself, we need the activity. When it comes to exist, we need an activity. To maintain it, we need an activity. And to manage it, we need what? Activity. So for us to exhibit any behavior at all, definitely the behavior has its activity log, has its activity section that we need to carefully study. Some of the activity automatically generate positive Iraada, and some of the activities automatically kill positive Iraada and generate negative what? Iraada. I mean, when we backbite and talk about people a lot, when we dance a lot, we talk a lot, then later on we come to sit down to actually get the motivation to read the Quran, to get the motivation to embark on a good deed, generosity, good and other characters, we find it to be what? Difficult. So be careful. Watch your life carefully. What are some of the activities that actually plunge you into a productive and enhancing state? We need to know them. And then we should also carefully arrange, we should also carefully study and know very well what are the activities that kills our motivation. Let's get time and sit down and reflect in this Ramadan in our tahajjud to be thinking over and over this. So activity number two. Number three is actually the location that we find ourselves. I mean, we all also agree that you might have strong machines and strong gadgets, but location can affect, land can affect your production level. So in much the same way, in the production of willpower, our location is very important. Sometimes, even with the people you stay with, that environment, your social environment alone, will motivate you to produce a strong willpower. In Ramadan, our uncles, our brothers, our mothers, our sisters, everybody serve as a source of motivation and strengthening us to have that willpower, the Iraada to move out and worship, to recite the Quran, to be generous and give and more and more. So what are the locations? How do you privatize some of the locations that we have in this Ramadan, so that even after Ramadan, those locations will become yours and you can still have, you will still be able to produce that irada, the willpower. Last but not the least is the time. The time of the day and the amount of time and duration of an activity definitely, or of a situation, definitely will lead to the production and increment of irada or reduction in irada. That one, we should take note of that one. So what time of the day are you actually very productive? You should study in this particular Ramadan, so that even beyond Ramadan, what time of the day do you completely have control on that time, that your manager, your wife, your children, or maybe any other important person in your life will not also have a say or have a control in that time? Unfortunately, these days, no matter how private our time is, Satan has a way of ensuring that this privacy is completely knocked out of our life. Presenting the social media to you, presenting the internet to you, presenting the technology gadgets to you, so that even your private time, when you were left alone in the room, that you could have had time to sit down and reflect, and then also do some more azkars to stabilize your heart. The alternative Satan is presenting to you is that go on Facebook when you are so bored, go on WhatsApp when you are so bored, go on TikTok, go on Telegram, go on this, go on that. So you realize that even the private time that you have, Satan is destroying that. But these are the key pillars for the production of what? Irada. We have mentioned the key sources of the production of Irada. Then we have also mentioned some key situations and factors that we call them filters that lead to the to alterate the quality of the Irada. And now we have talked about the pillars of the Irada. To summarize, and maybe as a take home for this particular lecture, the key activities in this Ramadan that can actually help us strengthen our willpower. Remember that willpower, the production of it itself, the processes, the main thing is for you to be able to deny your soul of something and prolong that time. Your soul says, do this, and you will deny your soul that this thing and strengthen your motivation to do another beneficial thing that is better than what your soul was requesting for you to do. That straining and changing your focus, your attention and effort to the other side, to the other alternative activity B, that will produce more reward than activity A indeed will produce. At that period of time, it will produce for you what? Irada, willpower. There are ways and means of transferring that irada, that discipline, self-discipline, the momentary one, to transfer it to other times so that you can continuously make use of that one. So in short, the activities number one on the list is actually Sawm, the fasting, from morning to that evening. Allah is telling you that that activity of eating and the activity of sex, that deny yourself, activity of drinking, deny yourself, activity of backbiting, deny yourself to another alternative activity that is better than what? This one. And through that time, you are going to nurture what we call self-discipline. That energy, that drive is now going to get into you. So that is number one, the fasting. But when you deny yourself of these things, what other activities? Quran recitation, reading of the Quran, listening to what? Lectures, sitting down to do remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal, embarking on reading to do more what? Research, and then struggling very well to ensure that you embark on services. Serve and serve and serve. Whatever way you're going to pass and say, either you are serving water, you are cleaning the masjid, you are cleaning the house, you are cooking, you are doing what? Just serve to humanity for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. So embark on services that will benefit people in this month of what? Ramadan. embark on salah, increase your salah day and night, more especially the day one. You are denying yourself of sleep. In the afternoon, you denied yourself of food. In the night, you are denying yourself of what? Sleep, so that you can do an alternative what? Job and replace over there. Then you continue on to ensure that at least teach something. Teach yourself something. Teach your wife something. Teach your children something. You don't get anybody to teach. Sit yourself down and teach yourself. Let your mind teach your soul. Let your mind hold meeting with your soul and teach your soul, and then teach your other parts of the body. Teach the heart, and then hold meetings together. But teach, and teach. And then finally, you have to ensure that you nurture a talent. Each day of the Ramadan should lead for you to learn a talent that you would use to benefit people in this month and beyond. Maybe this would be the time for you to be able to learn how to cook some of the foods to help your wife, and then maybe later on cook for other people to do. This may be the time for you to learn how to peel, some fruit, pineapple and so forth. This may be the time that you might use to learn anything at all that will be useful to yourself and then useful to the Ummah. Till our next episode, we say wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.